Okay, so I'm back. I hope you can all hear me. Can you?
Yeah, we can. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so you tell me what you understand the idea of narcissism to be about, and how it relates to the workplace and so forth. Just any kind of thoughts that you had in that period.
Well, I don't know if you may allow me to
Please.
start giving you some thoughts. Thank you. I think narcissism is a person that is narcissist is like a person that only thinks about its own needs. Basically, they are really, they tend to be manipulative about many things around them. It's like they like to manipulate everything that, like co-workers, or the way they work, or the way they interact with them. They have a tendency to build like an imaginary behavior. I don't know how to explain. Like, they know pretty well what's going on, but they let the co-workers or the people around them believe that whatever is happening is actually not happening at all. And then they start to manipulate their mental health in a way that the person that interacts with them start thinking that, oh, am I wrong? Or what's going on with me? And many of these kind of situations. They tend to have control about all the situations, and they don't try not to accept responsibility about their behaviors.
Okay. Bernice, this is great. This is fantastic. Brilliant. I really like the approach that you've put forward, and it seems very comprehensive as well. So you're either very familiar with this area, or it's an area that's of interest to you.
Yes,
so thank you, Bernice. I'll see if anyone else in the group has anything to add. I can see, Daniela, you've written here that someone who only thinks about themselves and want to benefit themselves in the workplace. Good. Yes?
I would like to say something positive about them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they have a strong sense of like a vision. So they have this vision, and they know what they want for the company. So I think that is a good, a positive thing.
Good. It's interesting, isn't it, to add. I mean, so far when we think about narcissism, we think of it completely in a bad way sometimes. But it's good to also see that there are very positive traits, and we're going to look at some of those a little later. So thank you again for that, Jeffrey. Does anyone else want to add anything? I suppose we've kind of covered, I wouldn't say all of it, but I think your perspectives have been, very, very good, very comprehensive. And as Bernice is new to the Psychometrics Cafe, I appreciate your contribution. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And the same for yourself, Jeffrey, and Daniela. Great. Okay, so I'll close the chat now. And just to remind you all, as this is the Psychometrics Cafe, we do have an etiquette that we bear in mind, and that's to listen, to understand, to contribute your knowledge, your thoughts and knowledge, speak your mind and heart, respect the views of others, and link and connect ideas. And then there are some elements that I cannot see because, yes, okay. And then the last one is have fun, of course, which matters significantly. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Michelle Hunter-Hill, and I'm a chartered and HCPC registered occupational psychologist. And I am going to be hosting the session today. And sorry, I've just seen something in the chat. So I will be shifting between the chat and what it is that I have to say. And Elena, I can see that you've put in the group, which is to everyone, so I can share it. You think everyone is narcissistic, yes, and you're saying that you are a bit narcissistic as well. And again, one of the things we know about these psychological disorders or traits is that you'll find a bit of everything in everyone. That's one thing that we can be sure of. But what we can do with psychometrics is we can actually assess people and see how much narcissism is within that person. So that's the purpose of psychometric testing and using it for this purpose. But yes, I see your point completely with that. Did you want to say something about it quickly, or shall we leave it there? Okay. So memories from the previous session, you may not have any, because I'm not sure how many of you were there, but we were talking more about test user capabilities, such as designing assessments, and also looking at oral feedback sessions and test administration. So as you know, with the Psychometrics Cafe, we move between the actual practical skills and tasks that you'll have to do if you were administering tests, to looking at specific topics. So this week, we're going to be looking at a specific topic, which is what can psychometrics tell us, or tests tell us, about narcissistic bosses? And this is just part one. Okay, so what we do know about narcissism, which I'm sure some of you may have knowledge of, is that it is a pathological form of self-absorption, which is where we focus solely on ourselves. And it dates back to, you know, a story which I'll leave you to go and look at, the story of Narcissus, who fell in love with his image by looking into a lake. But it's very interesting anyhow, so I'll leave you to have a look at the origins of that. But again, sometimes we look at narcissism as a trait, or sometimes we look at it as a disorder. If we look at it as a trait, then we're suggesting that it has some kind of biological basis, meaning that through hereditary, it has been passed down in some way or another. If we look at it as some form of disorder, we can actually say that perhaps because of something that has, you know, changed, or through development, or through being reared, we have developed this disorder in the same way that other disorders might develop. But what we do know in terms of characteristics is that it's about having extreme self-focus, an inflated sense of self, and a strong desire for recognition and praise. Now, I think it was Jeffrey that brought into the equation the idea that narcissism is not always negative, because we may look at this, and if we're looking at it with the lens, I don't know if Tuba's here, if we're looking at it with the lens that suggests that you know, narcissism is a bad thing, it's a negative thing, it's something that is quite damaging to oneself, then we will look at this list of items and think, well, these are all negative elements or attributes also. But if we look at it, oh, you are there, Tuba, because you know we always talk about the lenses, okay? So if we look at it from a more positive, through positive lens, what you'll see is that we think, oh, but what's wrong with having this extreme self-focus? You know, what's wrong with having this inflated sense of self? Because sometimes we all have to turn on these elements in our lives. We all have to look at, or I suppose we all have this desire for recognition and praise at some point in our life. And as I say, this inflated sense, you know, is some sense of self, is something, again, that we may have or experience bouts of every so often. Sometimes when we've achieved something, you know, we feel really powerful, and we speak about it. We want to be taken out. We want to celebrate it. So again, we just really need to know where to draw the line. And this is why we say, you know, with narcissism, we have to look at it as operating on a continuum. I could see there was something in the chat as well that, you know, a narcissist can be very valuable for a company. Yes, exactly, to achieve goals. Sometimes you need that narcissist in place to enable the organization to function more effectively and efficiently. And also because if having a narcissist in place might mean that those who are not as effective and efficient, shall I say, you know, they may look at that narcissist as like the ideal worker, and that may actually prompt them to even work harder to try to impress or improve, you know, their operations. So you can see in some way why narcissists might be valued. And, you know, there's a lot of research and just general chit chat out there, really, which is suggesting that most of the leaders that we have of our countries, of you know, major organizations, leading organizations, you know, do have a huge amount of narcissism within them. And that's probably what's leading and driving them forward, because they think that their way is the best way. And yeah, I won't go on to talk colloquially, but some would say, and others is, you know, others' perspectives it should suggest, sorry, that they should take the highway. So it's quite interesting, you know, when we start thinking and talking about narcissism. So there are different types of narcissism, and I'm not going to go into each of these, but hopefully the language that's used here, you know, will give you some kind of idea as to what type of person we might be describing, where we have an overt narcissist. So this is someone that's quite similar to how we would describe an extrovert. So someone who is an obvious narcissist, you can actually see it. They want praise. They want to stand in the middle of the room and say, look, come on, just give me all that praise. Tell me that I'm great, you know, and it's in their character, in their nature, to not shy away from behaving in that particular way. And there's much more to it, of course. But as I said, I'm just going through these generally, and I want you to become so interested that you explore these further. Then you have the covert narcissist, who is like the hidden narcissist, who may seek praise, who is very self-centered, but they don't emphasize this. You wouldn't really know. Some say, so if you cannot detect them, how do you know that they're narcissists? Now, because we have social media, and that seems to dominate most of our lives, many would argue that the covert narcissists operate mainly on social media platforms. But again, what they put out there does not give the impression that they are narcissists. However, in some way or another, they will be trying to gain praise. For example, they may praise someone else as a way to receive praise through that person for themselves. Okay, so if they carried out a task, they may say, oh, well, you know, it's not because of me, it's because of this person, knowing that they are going to receive praise, you know, through those means. You know, there are several examples that I could give for these, but it's just good to get an idea. And as I said, I want to spur your interest and get you to look into this further. We also have antagonistic narcissists. Now, these are the ones that crave for power and self-recognition so much that they will fight for it. Okay, they will fight for it. It's not a matter of trying to ask others to recognize who they are and seek praise. They will fight for it. They will literally, you know, call you in and say, look, can you see what I have done? And I know in my experience, I have had to advise a leader on how to deal with a worker, an employee that had this kind of antagonistic narcissism, because everything they did, they wanted praise, and not tomorrow or the next day or the following week or to wait until the newsletter comes out. They wanted that praise immediately, and and would get very angry if they didn't get it, believe it or not. And then you have what we call the communal narcissist. Again, you know, this type of person, yes, they are very self-centered, but they share Is somebody's speaker on? Could you turn your speakers off, please? Could you all switch your speakers off, please? Or your microphone, should I say? Is it Maya? Maya? Is it? I think it's okay. I'm trying to send a message. Is it okay? It seems to be gone now. Yes. So I was saying about the communal narcissist, and again, you'll find that they do have delusions of grandeur, like all narcissists do. However, they kind of share that. They still are they still have the ability to share. So they're not just focused on themselves. They will also praise others. And but what they will do is they will gather people around them who will help them to praise themselves. So yeah, very interesting type. Then you have the malignant narcissist, and again quite similar to the antagonistic one, but the malignant one, what they would actually do is, again, their narcissism is to do with can I explain? Unfortunately, it's to do with them being very pathological characters. They are behaving in that way for selfish interests, but they also want to cause harm to others. These people have what we call low VIM, which is VIM stands for violence inhibition mechanism. So, you know, they seek self-praise, they seek appreciation, irrespective of if it's going to impact another person. So, for example, they may highlight the fact that they have got a job, and then say if they both went for the same role and they were the ones that won the job, they may highlight that and say, oh, don't say to the other person, oh, don't worry, sorry you didn't do too well, and you know, maybe you're not as good as me. That's what this means by me winning the job, or something along those lines. So they will deliberately go out to harm another person to kind of highlight their strengths. So it's almost like highlighting their strengths to highlight another person's weakness. Okay, so this is what we mean by malignant narcissism. So you can see that there are, you know, very different types there. And we talked about the idea that narcissism doesn't have to always be a negative thing. You've got adaptive narcissism and maladaptive narcissism. So with adaptive, as you can see, this can actually be quite helpful, where it can be used to improve self-confidence, self-reliance, and the ability to celebrate yourself. In this current era, we are constantly telling people to believe in yourself, do the right thing, listen to your heart, listen to your soul, do what's best for you. So all of these things are in some way celebrating this, what we call adaptive narcissism. Okay, so we've got to be mindful of that as well. So you can see that, you know, we all have elements of narcissism because it's a form of self-praise. And if we wait for others to praise us, then who are we? So we do need to apply this, whether or not we like it, you know, it's just the way it is. And then you have maladaptive narcissism, which is concerned with, you know, the traits that that don't particularly serve you and can impact others in a negative way. Sometimes we have this sense of entitlement, like I am entitled to receive this praise, or because I did this, I should get that, and so forth. But you know, that kind of falls into that malignant, as well as the what was the other one I mentioned, the antagonistic narcissistic approaches. So we've got to be very careful in terms of how we conduct ourselves. Now, my statement just now is almost suggesting as if we can turn on, off and on our narcissism. And to be fair, as a psychologist, I do believe in change. I do believe that people can change the way they are. And sometimes, you know, if we are not reflective enough and we are not self-aware and we do not gather feedback from others, we may be doing the wrong thing. And it could be because we've never seen ourselves from that other perspective. Nobody has ever actually been honest with us or open to tell us that, you know, perhaps your behaviours are being a bit antagonistic and so forth. So sometimes we do need to listen to the other perspective about self so that we can, become conscious of that and decide whether there is something we can do about it. As psychologists, we want to, believe in people and trust that they can change. But as I said, if we consider narcissism to be something that we are born with or something that's a disorder and that we can in some way, do nothing about, or then again, that's going to influence the type of choices we make in terms of trying to manage it. Okay, so, this is what we understand narcissism to be. And one of the things about narcissism, especially the adaptive narcissism, it's connected. Maladaptive narcissism is connected to our self-conscious, our esteem. If we have low self-esteem, then you'll find that we can become more maladaptive in our approach. We may have higher chances of experiencing unpleasant emotions, and we have low empathy. So there are signs, there are ways of observing narcissism in our everyday behaviours. And what you'll see as well, for example, empathy is something we speak about a lot in the workplace. And, you can always tell when someone is being empathic, especially if they're responding to a co-worker, a colleague who has just experienced bad news or did not get that promotion or is not feeling so well on that day. How a person responds says something about what's going on inside and how they think, what their worldview is. And if someone is able to sit without responding, there are different reasons as to why people respond and why they don't. Some of you will know this through bystander intervention research, but what we know is that we can see expressions of narcissism. Now, the psychometric tests that are used to measure narcissism, these are designed so we can measure it empirically and scientifically. Okay, so maladaptive, just to clarify, maladaptive narcissism is, as I said, it's connected mainly to our entitlement, to the idea that we want to ensure that whatever is being done or said, or whatever we do or say and how we perform is being celebrated and highlighted. And as I say, it can be at the expense of others. So just to reiterate that previous point. Now, in terms of narcissism, we say that we want to look at it as being on a spectrum rather than is someone narcissist, yes or no, which would be a dichotomy. We want to see narcissism as being on a spectrum, meaning that people can vary in terms of low levels to high levels. And that's why we refer to it as a kind of trait that is normally distributed. Most people score near the middle in terms of narcissism. And that's what I find fascinating, which goes back to the point earlier about, what narcissism is, and whether it's something that we all have an element of. So if we all were to take a narcissistic type test like the NPI, as you can see there, we would probably all score, as it says, it's normally distributed at the midpoint. Okay, so that's something that can be explored. And it's used to measure the trait. So remember, there's a difference between trait types and states. And that was a previous topic that we had discussed at the cafe. Okay, so again, feel free to have a look at the NPI. And lastly, before I hand over to Lucia, you'll see that narcissism is what we consider to be a subclinical concept, and it's part of what we call the dark triad and the dark tetrad traits. Okay, so it's where we have an inflated self-importance, entitlement, lack of empathy. These are the key criterion points of narcissism. And, you know, just in case you're interested in this idea of the dark triad or tetrad, again, sometimes we look at these concepts and we think, why are we discussing this in the context of the workplace? Well, the truth being is that people in the workplace are ordinary people, and psychological disturbance can impact everyone, can impact us all. It's part of being a human being, okay? We all can experience psychological disturbances. So this idea of narcissism and psychopathy entering the workplace, yes, it is very possible. And those of you who are interested in applying psychology to the workplace, I mean, this is one of the main reasons why it is applied. And as some of you will know, I use forensic tests now in occupational settings, and this is becoming, again, very, very popular. So I'm now going to hand you over to Lucia. Are you there? Yes?
Yes, I am.
You are indeed. Okay. So I'm now going to hand you over to Lucia, who is actually going to talk to you about creating a test to measure psychopathic narcissism. And this is something she's been working on now for a few weeks. And once the scale has been formalized, so to speak, then it would be great if you all could contribute to completing it, and then we can give some feedback, and then we can take it further by putting it through factor analysis and seeing what the outcome will be. Okay, so Lucia will speak to you for the next 10 minutes, 10 minutes, okay? So Lucia, I'm going to hand over to you, and how I'm going to do this, I'm going to make you host, okay? So
okay.
It means that you can share your slides. Okay, I've handed over.
So I am now the host. Good afternoon for everyone. Okay, let me try to share my screen. Okay.
And then we'll take questions at the end. Okay, just brief ones.
Okay, can you please tell me if you are seeing a PowerPoint presentation there?
It's loading. Yes, definitely loading.
Perfect.
It appears to stop.
Okay, let's.
Yes.
Okay, there it is. Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself. Meanwhile, my name is Luisa Fernanda Bayona, and I'm a Colombian student at the Roehampton University, and I'm taking the module on psychometrics with Dr. Michelle. I have a lot of experience in different countries, working in different countries with different cultures. So I came up with the idea of let's learn a little more on the scientific side, and then with the diversity, let's make the workplace a better experience, right? Okay, so I'm going to present a test that I have been creating with the help of Dr. Michelle on the topic of the psychopathic narcissism. So I'm going to start with some basic knowledge because Dr. Michelle covered up pretty much everything. Just one sentence to remind. Then I'm going to talk about the test that is have been decided in two parts, and then at the end, just a couple of suggestions, recommendations. Okay, so let's start. The basic definition. A person who displays both narcissist and psychopath behavior is called a psychopathic narcissist. The psychopathy, as we know, it's characterized by shallow emotional responses, and the narcissism is characterized by an overly positive and grandiose view of the self. So going to the test. The test has been formulated with closed format questions. So it means that one statement is made and it has several options to choose. It has some reverse questions, so different wording looking for matching answers that I'm going to explain a little more about this later. So on the first part, the head text says, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statements, being 1 the lowest and 5 the highest? The actual test blank is this one. So it has on the number 1, highly disagree, number 2, somehow disagree, number 3 is neutral point, the number 4 is somehow agree, and the number 5, highly agree. And the actual answers that we're looking for are these. So with these answers, we are making a match on the psychopathic narcissist behaviors. Okay, so what is the science behind these questions? Why I have come up with these questions? So number 1, and perhaps the most important to highlight here, is that the narcissist it presents as a false self. So it means that they are always pretending. So we cannot ask questions directly. We cannot ask directly, do you consider yourself as a narcissist? Because of course they are going to say no. So we have to disguise the questions and take them like we are going to somewhere else. One of the characteristics is the callous emotionality. So there are questions, for example, I am a happy person most of the time. So the callous emotionality, it refers to they are not empathic. They are pretty much on 0 level of emotions. So being happy is not a concept that they will understand that much. Another characteristics, tendency to engage in antisocial behavior. So, for example, the question number 10, it says the use of bad, rude, or derogatory words is sometimes necessary with certain types of employees, otherwise they will not understand. They devalue others. So we have the question number 12, teamwork and sharing is necessary to achieve the company's goal. So as we know, they don't value others. They should mark as a highly disagree because they will think just what they do is what it counts, right? Another characteristic, a sense of esteem based on opinion of others. So we have several questions about, is my desire to be notorious or famous? I do not like to talk about my achievements. I do not expect any reward or public recognition. So we have here what is a reverse question. The number 3, it is my desire to be notorious or famous in my field, so it should be marked as 5, highly agree. And then the reverse question will be the number 15. I do not expect any reward or public appreciation. That one should be marked as I highly disagree. So we have this contrast that one has to be positive, the other one has to be negative, or one high, the other one low. And then when it matches, so we have again a match on what we are looking for. Another characteristic, promote self-enhancement. So they tend to be the center of attention of the conversation. If somebody takes the lead, they take it in there. It's always sooner or later being about themselves. And also we have here another type of reverse question. Another characteristic, tendency to be manipulative and exploit others. So we have several questions here. For example, number 4, I am able to redirect a conversation when somebody is trying to confront me. For example, one person is asking or complaining against me, and I am able to say, oh, no, it's you don't understand, or you are the one who is being sensitive because I didn't mean that. It's you, the person who is wrong, not me. Okay. So the next characteristic, grandiose fantasy. So we have several questions related with money, related with power, and related with control. As we know, they like to brag all the time. And this is pretty much the first part. The second part, we have, again, the same closed format questions and reverse questions. But in this case, we have, from the following statements, choose one and the only one that appeals to you. So this will be the blank test, and these are the questions that we are looking for. In this case, we have, for example, the 16 and the 19 and the 21 question. We expect to have more than one correct answer. In this case, the algorithm could lead, like we can have the results as tasting the levels. You know, Dr. Michelle was saying before, the different type of narcissism, the different levels. So this could be helpful to achieve that. The science behind the questions, we have, again, grandiose fantasy at the sense of esteem based on opinion of others. So we have a couple of questions related again with money, with power, and with control. Shallow emotional responses, lack of empathy. So I would recommend to make another test that is related with emotional attachment. In that case, it will be the C, the avoidant, not empathic with others, the answer that we are looking for here. There is one interesting fact that I found, and it is related with the modern times that we are living with the social media. Fox and Rooney conduct a study in 2015, and I quote, those higher in narcissism and psychopathy reported posting selfies more frequently. So this is one, and the main result of their study. So that's why these questions about media and selfies are being formulated. And finally, I think it's very important to know the type of personality that the person has, right? So it will be good to make them do the Myers and Briggs personality test, which is one of the most important. And it should be much the point C, the self-centered. And that's it. These are my references. All the information that I have found, I put together. And I would like especially to say thank you to Bernice, that she helped me a lot to decide these questions. That's it by now. Thank you very much. And any question, welcome. Okay, finishing.
Michelle, Michelle, you have to open your mic, I think.
Oh, right. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Lucia, could you make me host again, please? If you just click on my name and
okay,
yeah, and then I can. Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, can you tell me, please, how can I do this?
So if you go into the participants, you click on my name, and then right click, and it says make host. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so Dr. Michelle.
Sorry, guys. I know we've gone over a little bit, but it's fine. I hope you just have a few minutes, just one or two, maybe. just to conclude. Is it sorted?
Sorry.
Don't worry.
Cannot
Okay.
find it.
You're welcome, Elena. Nilafar, I can see your comments all coming through. Have you turned me into host again? No? Okay. Don't worry. We'll I just wanted to find out, I wanted to conclude, you know, using the official way, but no worries. We will conclude where we are. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being present and for, you know, providing commentary and just listening, because it's the only way that we can share good practice and share what it is that we've been working on, which is, again, all linked to our specialist area, okay, which is on psychometrics and occupational psychology. So thank you, everyone. And as I say, if you have any additional comments, you can always post them. And I'll see if we can share Lucia's reference list, okay, with you all. Don't worry, Lucia, don't worry. Just enjoy the moment. Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you at the next cafe, which will be in a couple of weeks' time, where we'll be looking at part 2, and we'll be looking at adaptive and maladaptive narcissism, and we'll be interviewing 2 people who talk about their own experiences of being narcissists, self-acclaimed, and you know, talking about how it impacts them in the workplace, negatively and positively. Okay, so thanks again. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lucia.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And to everyone who's here, Christos, Daniela, Elena, Nilofor, Sarah, Serena, and I'm not sure of the other person, but I know Karina was also here. But thank you all. I appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And Luisa, it was a great presentation as well. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Michelle, you are the host again.
I am? Okay. I just wanted to thank everyone.
I couldn't find
it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. There we are. I was just concluding here. Yeah. Now it's slowed down, but yeah. Yeah, and it was just to see whether there was any other comments, but I can see most have put their comments in the chat box, and it's just to say see you in a couple of weeks, where we'll be discussing part 2, and hopefully Lucia and Bernice, you can join us again if possible.
I will.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It will be a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me again.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure having you on board. Okay, take care,
Thank
ladies.
you. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.